The tragedy of Creedence Clearwater Revival. Creedence Clearwater Revival was a rock band that rose to fame in the late 1960s and early 1970s, known for their distinctive sound blending swamp rock, blues, and roots rock with elements of Americana. The group, originally formed in El Cerrito, California, consisted of John Fogerty, vocals, guitar, Tom Fogerty, guitar, Stu Cook, bass, and Doug Clifford, drums. Their music captured the cultural mood of America during a time of social upheaval, and they became one of the most popular and influential American bands of their era. The origins of Creedence Clearwater Revival go back to 1959 when the Fogerty brothers, John and Tom, began playing together in a band called the Blue Velvets, alongside classmates Stu Cook and Doug Clifford. The group evolved over the years, changing their name to the Golliwogs, before eventually becoming Creedence Clearwater Revival in 1967. The name was a combination of Creedence, a reference to a friend named Creedence Newball, Clearwater, taken from a beer commercial, and Revival, signifying a musical rebirth. Creedence Clearwater Revival's breakthrough came in 1969 with the release of their self-titled debut album, which showcased their blend of rock and roll with a distinct Southern feel. Tracks like Susie Q exemplified their raw, energetic sound and set the stage for the band's success. Their second album, Bayou Country, followed shortly after and featured the iconic track, Proud Mary, which became one of the band's most recognized songs. The song's success helped them cement their place in the American musical landscape. Their ability to tell stories through music, combined with John Fogerty's distinctive voice and songwriting style, quickly set them apart from other bands of the era. Throughout 1969 and 1970, Creedence Clearwater Revival achieved a remarkable string of successes, releasing 4 albums in as many years. Green River, Willie and the Poor Boys, and Cosmo's Factory were all hits, each one contributing timeless classics to the rock music canon. Songs like Bad Moon Rising, Fortunate Son, Down on the Corner, and Who'll Stop the Rain became anthems of the era, with their mix of social commentary and catchy, memorable melodies. The band's lyrics, often infused with a sense of American pride, were also a reflection of the societal challenges of the time, such as the Vietnam War and civil rights movements. However, despite their success, the internal dynamics of the band were already beginning to show signs of strain. The tension within Creedence Clearwater Revival can largely be attributed to the dominant role that John Fogerty, the band's lead vocalist, songwriter, and guitarist, played in the group's success. Fogerty's songwriting was prolific, and he wrote almost all of the band's major hits, establishing him as the undeniable leader of the group. While this was essential to the band's success, it also created rifts among the members. Tom Fogerty, John's older brother, grew increasingly resentful of his younger siblings' control over the band. Tom had long felt sidelined, both in terms of songwriting credits and his diminishing role in the creative direction of the band. His frustration boiled over, and by 1971, Tom had left the band, marking the beginning of Creedence Clearwater Revival's downfall. His departure created a deep personal and professional fracture that the band was never able to fully recover from. While Tom's departure was a significant blow to the band's unity, it was not the sole cause of their decline. The strain within the band was exacerbated by poor management and financial decisions, including disputes with their label, Fantasy Records. The band was being heavily exploited by their record label, and John Fogerty, in particular, began to feel the weight of the pressure to constantly deliver hit records. The band had a notoriously unfavorable contract with Fantasy, which was controlled by the shrewd and often manipulative Saul Zaentz. This led to bitter legal battles and further exacerbated tensions within the group. The mounting stress, coupled with the pressures of touring and the growing personal animosities among the members, took its toll on the band. By 1972, just 5 years after they had become a household name, the band was on the verge of collapse. John Fogerty, who had poured so much of himself into the band's success, found himself increasingly isolated. The other members, particularly bassist Stu Cook and drummer Doug Clifford, began to push for more creative control, creating friction with John, who still considered himself the leader and primary creative force. This creative and personal conflict came to a head when John Fogerty made the difficult decision to disband Creedence Clearwater Revival in 1972. His frustration with the band's internal struggles, compounded by the legal and financial entanglements with Fantasy Records, led him to feel that continuing with the band was no longer viable. The breakup was painful and, in many ways, sudden. The members had achieved so much together, but their personal differences and the external pressures they faced could not be overcome. The aftermath of the breakup was tragic in its own right. John Fogerty's career after Creedence Clearwater Revival's dissolution was marked by significant personal and professional difficulties. He struggled with his own sense of identity outside the band and was unable to replicate the immense success he had enjoyed with Creedence Clearwater Revival. His solo career had some notable successes, including hits like The Old Man Down the Road, but he never again reached the same level of cultural dominance that Creedence Clearwater Revival had achieved. Fogerty's bitterness toward his former bandmates and his complicated relationship with the music industry remained a defining characteristic of his post-Creedence Clearwater Revival life. Tom Fogerty, on the other hand, tried to carve out a solo career after leaving Creedence Clearwater Revival, but he was largely unsuccessful in his efforts. He never regained the spotlight he had shared with his brother in the band, and tragically, Tom passed away in 1990 from complications of tuberculosis at the age of 48. His death added another layer of sadness to the story of the band, as it was a reminder of the deep personal and professional schisms that had torn the band apart. Stu Cook and Doug Clifford also found themselves struggling after the band's demise. The two tried to continue their careers in music, forming the band Creedence Clearwater Revisited, but they never managed to recapture the magic or success of their former band. They would frequently express their disappointment in the way things had unfolded, and the bitterness toward John Fogerty was evident in their public comments and interviews. Perhaps the most tragic element of Creedence Clearwater Revival's story was the lingering question of what could have been. The band's creative potential was immense, and they had the capability to evolve in exciting ways had they been able to overcome their personal conflicts and work together. Instead, their division resulted in one of the most abrupt and painful band breakups in rock history, with many fans left wondering what musical treasures were lost in the chaos. In the years following the breakup, a sense of unfinished business surrounded the band's legacy. Despite their short-lived time together, Creedence Clearwater Revival remains a foundational part of the rock genre, and their influence can still be felt today. Yet the unresolved tension between the members, the legal battles, and the personal tragedies that followed have painted a bittersweet picture of what could have been. The story of Creedence Clearwater Revival is a cautionary tale about the destructive potential of personal egos, financial mismanagement, and creative differences. While the band's legacy endures, the tragedy of Creedence Clearwater Revival lies not only in their untimely breakup but also in the fact that, as individuals, the members were never able to heal their rifts, either professionally or personally. Their tragic end remains a haunting reminder of the costs of success when it is coupled with conflict, misfortune, and unresolved grievances.